I have this Thermos 8326 here, and it has one of the all-in-one pump and fuel cap assemblies, and there are 4 O-rings in this. One to seal to the fount, one for the plunger, one for the little poppet valve, and then there's a hidden one between this plug and the pump body. And I'm going to show you how to replace the 4th O-ring that's hidden in here in the pump body, and then the poppet valve. These other 2 are fairly easy to do. They just slide on and off. Not a big deal. This one here, I've already fixed this pump on this one. This one, when I was running it one evening, I wasn't paying attention. I was working on the computer, and next thing I know, there was a puddle of fuel about this big on my workbench. And so I tried to repair it with the O-rings in a Harbor Freight O-ring kit, and none of them were quite right. They just didn't seal the pump body, and so that led me to purchasing all these different sizes of O-rings, which they're all about the same size, but just little minor variations. And through some trial and error, I was able to come up with a combination that worked and sealed this so that it didn't leak. This one here has been sitting for 24 hours under pressure, and it hasn't leaked yet. So this is what you're going to need to replace the O-rings. A hammer, a socket that just fits into the body of the pump, a pick, and a 3/4 inch split collar. You'll also need 4 O-rings, and I'll put the size on the screen. So the reason for the split collar is to support the pump body. When I originally tried to do this, I set the pump body in the vise, and I tried to support it on the edges of the pump body and use my socket to drive out the plug in the bottom. And then what happened is it started to fold up the edges of this pump body, and I couldn't clamp it in the vise because it was going to crush the pump body, and I needed it to be perfectly round in order to maintain the seal. So what I did is I put the split collar on the pump body, and I used that to support the pump body while I drove out the plug out of the bottom. Now what I did is I used my hydraulic press, and I supported this in the press, and then I just pressed it out. But you can use the collar on the edges of a vise, like so, and just kind of let it rest there, and then tap it out with a hammer. But because I had the hydraulic press, I decided to go ahead and use the press to push that out. with the plug pressed out, you can see where this fourth O-ring is. It's on the bottom of the poppet valve and the plug that goes in this pump body here. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this O-ring. That's pretty hard. Maybe I'll try to cut it. So what I found through trial and error is what works best is an X-ring. It has a different profile than an O-ring and has 50% more sealing surface than an O-ring. And once I put the X-ring on this one, I was actually finally able to get a reliable seal. But before I go ahead and do that, I'm going to dig out the O-ring from the poppet valve here. And to do that, press on this little plunger, and that will lift up the poppet, and then take a pick, and you can pick the O-ring out from this channel in here. And if it's been in there a while, it could take a while to get that out. Now take the new one and press the little poppet valve up here. And make sure there's no garbage in the channel or on the poppet valve itself. And put it around the poppet valve, check valve, and then carefully press it into the channel underneath the poppet valve. You don't want to put a nick in it because that'll cause it to leak. And it kind of helps if you let the spring hold it down. There you go. Goes right into the channel there, and your poppet valve has a new seal, a new O-ring. Now for the X-ring, and slip this on here, and be careful because this one can roll. You want to make sure that it's sitting correctly. See, there, tried to roll. So you might have to work it several times to get it to sit on there right. Okay, there it is, sitting on there. I can tell it's not twisted. And then you've got these two ridges, the two sealing surfaces instead of the one with the O-ring. We're going to go ahead and press that back into the pump body. So once you have the two O-rings on this plug replaced, you can put it back into the pump body, and you have to put it in through the top. You can't put it in through the bottom. If you try to put it into the bottom, this sharp edge here will rip your O-ring. So put it in, get it started. And sometimes they won't go that easy. And you want it just a tiny little bit of reveal there, because we're going to crimp this back. And to do that, I take the split collar here and I put it at the very end, and I'm going to use it as a press to press the body around this plug, because we stretched it out when we pushed it out of the bottom of the pump body here. And then when I'm done with that, the very edge of it here needs to be rolled into the groove, and I'll do that on the vise. So I'm going to tighten this down, and I'm going to be careful that I don't pinch it. If you tighten it too much, you can pinch it here at these openings. So I tighten it a little bit at a time, and then I'm going to back it off, rotate it some, and do it again. Making sure that I don't distort the body of the pump. I'm just trying to press it back a little bit so that it holds that plug in there. Okay, now that I've got that pressed, I'm going to go and roll this edge into the channel on the bottom of this plug, and I'm going to do that with a hammer on the anvil of the vise here. And I'm just real careful. Go ahead and move you guys over here. That's probably good. We're just trying to restore this crimped edge a little bit. So the final step is to replace the O-ring on the pump, and that one just slides right on, just like that. And then the last one goes up onto the pump body itself here. Now originally I think these were flat gaskets, but an O-ring will seal it. Put a little oil on the inside of the pump here for that O-ring. And reassemble, and it is ready to go. That's how you replace the 4 O-rings in the Thermos pump and fuel cap assembly. I hope this helps. Thanks for watching.